Good afternoon to everyone joining us through this live stream. Today's presentation invites us into a powerful literary and political imagination that continues to shape how we understand power, language, surveillance, and truth in the modern world. The text we are exploring presents a society where control is not maintained only through force, but through the manipulation of memory, language, and perception. Through figures such as Winston Smith, who is the leading figure and the protagonist of this novel, we witness the struggle of an individual trying to hold on to truth in a system designed to erase truth. The looming symbolic authority of Big Brother, BB, or Big Brother, reminds us that power often survives by making itself appear permanent, unquestionable, and ever watchful. As we begin this student-led introductory presentation, we encourage viewers to think beyond the setting of the novel and consider its continuing relevance in an age of data tracking, algorithmic influence, political propaganda, and contested realities. The work, this novel, forces us to ask difficult questions. Knowledge. How is history rewritten? What happens when language itself is reshaped to limit thought? We hope that the presentation the students are going to make will introduce to these key ideas, themes, and the context that will help this novel 1984 not merely as dystopian fiction, but as a warning, a philosophical inquiry, and a political commentary. Through this introduction, our students will help situate the text historically, explain its central ideas, and open pathways for deeper discussion. We hope this session encourages critical thinking, reflective reading, and frozen. Okay, yeah. Maybe because of internet. Yeah. Okay. Meaningful dialogue about literature's role in understanding society, governance, and human freedom. Okay? Let us ask students to start with their presentation. Okay?
Of New Unit 1984, which is a famous dystopian novel written by a modernist writer, George Orwell. So today, we 5 students from here, Department of English, MKBU University, going to make presentations on the novel 1984 written by George Orwell. So first, I, Rudra, then Vanita Baraya, Priyanka Nakrani, Sagar Chawda, and then last Grishma Raval would conclude this presentation. So here are our major points which we are going to discuss today. First, let's start by knowing what is the 1984. It is a novel and how it shaped historical context in modernist literature. So first of all, 1984 is a dystopian novel written by George Orwell and published in 1949. The story is set in a totalitarian state called Oceania, where the government led by the mysterious figure Big Brother exercised absolute control over its citizens. And the novel follows the main character, Winston Smith, a low-ranking member of the ruling party, who secretly questions the regime and the struggle to preserve his individuality in a society that suppresses freedom, truth, and independent thought. The party controls every aspect of life through constant surveillance, manipulation of history, and psychological domination. Winston's attempt to rebel against the system ultimately exposes the terrifying power of authoritarian control. Now, first of all, let's begin this presentation by knowing that why 1984 this novel is considered as a landmark in dystopian literature itself. So 1984 is regarded as a landmark dystopian novel because it presents a chilling and realistic vision of future where freedom is completely destroyed. Orwell introduced powerful concepts such as Big Brother, thought police, iconic of thought laws, icons of thought writing, and the new pick and the double think, icons of interlocking, which have become part of everyday language. The novel serves as a strong warning against totalitarianism, mass surveillance, censorship, and the abuse of political power. Its relevance has continued into the modern world, especially in discussion about government control and the propaganda which led by the government, totalitarian government itself. Then first we should look up on the George Orwell's major idea in his life. That George Orwell was majorly a novelist of modernist time who was born in 1903 and died in 1950. He was an English novelist, essayist and journalist and also critic and best known for his analytical sharp in totalitarian government, political ideology and social injustice. And he is also famous for two of his major novels. First is Animal Farm and second is 1984. So first, Orwell's political beliefs. That Orwell was a democratic socialist who strongly opposed totalitarian regimes, whether fascist or communist. He believed in social equality, individual freedom, and honesty in politics. His writing constantly reflects his concern for truth, justice, and freedom of thought. Then why this novel 1984 is too much big achieved in the dystopian fiction itself? Because Orwell's service in the British Empire, imperial police in Burma made him aware of the cruelty and injustice led by the imperialistic government. His experience of poverty, described in one of the earliest novels, Down and Out in the Paris and London, gave him insight into social inequality. His participation in the Spanish Civil War exposed him to political betrayal, propaganda, and authoritarian control, which deeply shapes his distrust of totalitarian system. Now, this all experience directly influenced him to write in 1984 and making this novel as a powerful and realistic portrayal of political oppression. So next, from the setting of the novel, I would like to invite Vanita Bhareya for further more information regarding this novel.
So hello everyone. Today I discuss about setting, historical and political context and social and political hierarchy of the novel. Let's talk about Oceania. Oceania is the most important thing about it is that it is a totalitarian state. So this means government controls everything like politics, society, information, even people's thought. So the frame slogan "Big Brother is watching you" shows how people are always being observed. So the state is characterized by constant war, strict surveillance, and complete political control. Citizens are kept obedient through propaganda, fear, and manipulation of truth. The geography is not clearly defined because Orwell wants to show us that the political power is important rather than physical boundaries. Now let's talk about Strip 1. Strip 1 is the name given to Britain after it loses independence and becomes military base of Oceania. The name itself reflects humiliation and loss of national identity. Now, social and political hierarchy in 1984. Big Brother, at the top, Big Brother. Big Brother is a symbol of power. People fear and obey him. After Big Brother, there is the inner party. So the inner party, they are very few people, but they control everything like truth, policy, and ideology. The third is outer party. So outer party, they work for government. They always watch it, and they cannot think freely. Then the proles. So at the bottom are the proles. They are the majority, but they are the majority, but they are not controlled strictly. But they are kept busy with cheap entertainment, so they don't questioning about anything. They don't raise question against the government, against the powers and all. So now talks about historical and political context. So the fear of global conflict. So after the World War II, people were scared that another World War could happen. So that because of this fear, government became more powerful. So Orwell shows the fear in this novel. The growth of state control. So during wartime, governments controlled food, jobs, and resources. So Orwell worried about this control. They worried that this control would never end. So we can say that Orwell was inspired by dictators like Hitler, Stalin. So these leaders controlled everything, just like the party in the novel. So overall, Orwell is warning us that too much government control can take away our freedom. Then totalitarianism and Cold War fears. So state exercising absolute control over public and private lives. So Orwell depicts party dominance through propaganda, surveillance, and fear, and eliminating dissent and independent thought. So inspired by Stalin and Nazi Germany. So after totalitarianism, there is Cold War fears, reflects global tensions, fear of constant war, and nuclear destruction. So these three superstates in endless conflict mirror Cold War anxieties, using war to control population and maintain power. So this is from my side. Now I would like to call Priyanka.
So thank you, Anita, for providing me background. My name is Priyanka, and here I will briefly explain the plot structure of 1984. So this story follows Winston Smith, who works at the Ministry of Truth. His job is to rewrite history, but internally he starts debating the party. His rebellion begins in very small way by writing a diary and questioning a big brother. This shows a beginning of individual resistance. Later, he starts a secret relationship with Julia. Through this relationship, he feels a sense of freedom. He also believes that O'Brien is part of the underground resistance movements, but this turns out to be false. Eventually, Winston and Julia are arrested by Thought Police, and Winston is taken to Ministry of Law, where he is tortured. The party does not just punish him physically; it forces him to accept it ideologically. So, moving further, let's see the major characters. So, there in this novel there are 4 characters: Winston Smith, Julia, O'Brien, and Big Brother. So, let's start with Winston Smith. Intellectual, he is intellectual but physically weak. He represents critical thoughts and memory. His mental rebellions fails in proving individual resistance. He's powerless against totalitarianism without collecting action. And also his defeat shows a party stick or convert rebels, not just kill them. So second is Julia. He is very practical, impulsive, and seeks of personal pleasure. And then after she rebels through sexual freedom, not ideologically or not ideology, she resists norms and rules, not the system's power and the structure, making her rebellion ineffective. The third is O'Brien. He is very high-ranking party intellectual. He faces rebellions, but is a true believer in absolute power. He is active as a torture, teacher, and party philosopher. Terrifying because he honestly states the power exists only for its own sake. And after third character, there is Big Brother, a main character, a symbolic figure of constant surveillance and authority. He functions psychologically. People obey because they feel watched. He embodies internalized power. Big Brother success because people self-monitor. So thank you, and I would like to invite Sagar Chawda for further information. Thank you.
Now we are going to discuss major themes and symbols as discussed in the novel. The first major theme of the novel is totalitarianism and the nature of power. Power is an end. As the famous quote says, that power is not a mean, but it is an end. Its own self, not as a mean to utopia. Power is tearing human minds to pieces and putting them together again in new shapes of your own choosing. Psychological control, double thing. Double thing is the simultaneous acceptance of two contradictory beliefs, such as we see in the freedom is slavery and war is peace, these kind of things, where citizens knowingly lie while genuinely believing the lie is truth. Abolition of the self. The very idea we can see in the at the end of the novel, where we see that the Winston Churchill is forced to say that he loved Big Brother, and in this sense, his self was abolished, and the party's goal is to eliminate individual identity. Emotional control redirects private loyalties, love, family, sex to the party. Surveillance, truth, and history. The panoptic state. Internalized surveillance means citizens must act as if always watched, eliminating the private self in any sanctuary. It is well known as the telescreens. Epistemological control. 2 plus 2 is equal to 5. This is not a truth, but it is a carefully constructed truth. The novel's core in conflict is the defense of objective reality. The party asserts reality exists only in the mind of the party. Solipsism. The control of memory. Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past. And it is the party who controls the present. The Ministry of Truth continuously alters history, making it a fluid tool of propaganda to prove the party's infallibility. Here are the key concepts and symbols. Symbols of systematic operation. Big Brother. It may not be a real person and it may function over reality. It is irrelevant whether Big Brother exists as a living person. He functions as the focal point of love, fear, and reverence. Paradoxical images. He is presented simultaneously as a benevolent protector, familiar title, and a pervasive threat. And the famous quote that Big Brother is watching you, and it asserts that the whole propaganda or all the things are in control of Big Brother, and there is no any more authoritative identity than Big Brother himself. The telescreen, invasion of the domestic sphere. Historically, the home was the sanctuary from the state. The telescreen abolishes this distinction. As we can see in every home, you can find the telescreen. Dual instrument, it serves as both a transmitter of propaganda and a recorder of behavior. The lack of silence, it cannot be turned off by outer party members, symbolizing the citizens' total lack of agency over their environment. They are continually watched by Big Brother or so to say by the party. Language and artifacts of memory. Newspeak. As it is very identical that based on the theory that thought depends on language. If a word does not exist, the concept cannot be conceived. So in this manner, the Newspeak dictionary of the party try to eradicate the words such as freedom and to eradicate the whole concept of freedom. Reduction, which is expansion. Unlike normal languages that grow, Newspeak shrinks. Its goal is to make thought crime literally impossible by removing the necessity vocabulary such as honor, freedom, such kind of things. The glass paperweight, symbol of the altered past. It represents a fragment of history that the party has not yet rewritten. Useless beauty existing for its own sake. The microcosm. Winston imagines the coral inside the glass as a safe haven for himself and Julia suspended in crime. The shattering. When the thought police arrests Winston, the paperweight is smashed, symbolizing the destruction of his private world and the fragility of memory. Thank you. It was for my side.
Thank you, Sagar, for clearly explaining the key themes and the concept. Now, starting from the concept and symbols which are seen in the novel, it is a symbol of systematic operation where we see the Big Brother is functioning over reality. How it is irrelevant whether the Big Brother exists as a living person or he functions as the focal point of love, fear, and reverence. And we also see a paradoxical image, how he is presented simultaneously as a benevolent protector, also as a familiar title, and a pervasive threat, like is watching you. There is this quotation, Big Brother is watching you. So how he always he sees everyone and he monitors everyone from the telescreen, which shows the invasion of domestic sphere. And historically, if we see that the home was the sanctuary from the state, and the telescreen abolishes this distinction. We see a dual instrument which serves as both a transmitter of propaganda as well as a recorder of the behavior. We also see the lack of silence, where it cannot be turned off by the outer party members, which symbolize that how the citizens' total lack of agency is seen over their environment. If we talk about the language and the artifacts of memory in the novel, there is a symbol of newspeak, which is a linguistic determinism, which is based on the theory that thought depends on language. If a word does not exist, then the concept also cannot be conceived properly, which results in the theme of reduction versus expansion, which unlike the normal languages that grow, here the newspeak is shrinking, and the goal is to make thought crime literally impossible by removing the necessary vocabulary like honor. We also see the glass paperweight, which is a symbol of altered past, which represents a fragment of history that the party has not yet rewritten, and useless beauties existing for its own sake. Then we see the microcosm, where Winston imagines the coral inside the glass, a safe haven for himself, and Julia is suspended in time. Then the shattering, when the thought police have arrested Winston, the paperweight is smashed, which symbolizes the destruction of his private world, and the fragility of memory can be seen within this certain incident which happened. Then coming forward to the language and style which is used in the novel, where we see simplicity and clarity of language. The prose is very direct, unadorned, and economical, and the sentences are generally short and clear, and they are avoiding the decorative or poetic excess. It also reflects Orwell's belief that clear language is very essential in writing something with a clear thought, which is very clearly seen in this novel. And it also creates a stark contrast with the complex psychological horror which is seen in the novel. How it feels very difficult that someone is constantly monitoring you all the damn time. So it makes the narrative accessible while also it is intensifying the realism in it. So we see the plainness of language, but it is enhancing the cold mechanical atmosphere of the society where this novel has been structured in. And emotions are independent and are not independent and are somewhat discouraged. And language is used as a tool of control, like the newspeak. So most significant stylistic innovations we see is the newspeak, the official language of the Oceania. And the purpose is not communication, but the restriction of thought. So the key features we see that there is a reduction of vocabulary being seen, which is eliminating the words like freedom, justice, and it replaces with the mechanical prefixes such as un, plus, double plus. Elimination of shades of meaning is being seen. So by shrinking the language, the party is also shrinking the range where human thought can reach. And Orwell here stylistically is demonstrating how this language can be manipulated, and the rebellion literally can be unthinkable. So we see the political slogans like war is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength, and the paradoxical language used besides it. So these slogans are the examples of Orwell's use of paradox and irony, and these contradictions are being seen to normalize the illogical thinking. It prepares the citizens for double think. It shows how language is reshaping the reality rather than describing it. And we see the blunt slogan-like phrasing is mimicking the real-world political propaganda during the time when the novel was set. And we see the bureaucratic and mechanical style in the novel, where the language, especially in the descriptions of the government officials, has a bureaucratic, repetitive tone. The official documents are emotionless. Reports and the records are very formal. Human experiences are reduced to basic data. And this stylistic coldness reflects the dehumanization inherent in the totalitarian systems. By which we see the limited perspective and psychological language being shown, and it is written in third person limited narration, and it is closely aligned with Winston Smith's consciousness. So we can see a path of stream of consciousness, but somewhat in negative style as well. So the Orwell style here is capturing Winston's confusion, fear, and fragmented thoughts. And also it uses simple internal monologue to show psychological oppression. And gradually it is becoming more restrained as Winston is losing his autonomy. And this resistance weakens and the language becomes emotionally drained, which mirrors his mental collapse. Then the use of repetition, like repeated slogans, the ideological conditioning, repeated imagery of the telescreens, eyes, surveillance, creates the anxiety in the novel. And this repetition is mirroring the brainwashing process. And the style is thus imitating the very mechanisms of control which it critiques. And if we look into the irony and the satirical tone, it is very much evidently seen in the novel. And despite its grim seriousness, the style is containing subtle satire. The names like Ministry of Love, Ministry of Truth are ironic, because if in real life we cannot have these names for the government officials. And euphemistic language is masking the violence and lies present in the novel. And this satirical use of language is exposing the moral emptiness of political doublespeak in the novel. So this language which Orwell is using is intentionally restrained, precise, and functional, which serves the novel's central warning that when the language is corrupted, thought itself is endangered. So there is also a contemporary relevance, somewhat parallelism, which we have looked upon in this novel regarding digital surveillance and control, manipulation of truth and information, and the cultural examples taken from Hollywood. So there is a constant surveillance which mirrors the 1984's telescreens. In the Truman Show, where surveillance is the key feature, like how in this novel Big Brother is constantly watching everything which they are doing. Same way in this movie also, we can see how the surveillance, the CCTV cameras are always monitoring one's actions, whatever they are performing. And governments and corporations, they collect vast data for control, not just for security, which we see in the minority report, like the pre-crimes which have not even yet happened, but they are forging these documents, and before anything happens, they are already arresting the people. Like here also the government is trying to control everything. So here also we can see the police is trying to control the people, and they are arresting them just like the thought police. And normalized surveillance becomes a tool of oppression, where we see the censorship and regime, which is seen in V for Vendetta, and like the truth is manipulated, like the Ministry of Truth, and V becomes the main power of control in this movie. The algorithms and the fake news, edited narratives also shape the public opinion, like Article 15, where we can see how people are oppressed by their caste and everything, and how government is trying to control everything. Language is strategically used, similar to newspeak, which we also see the same case in Heather and Article 15 as well. And the character of Winston, how his psychological tormentation is mirroring the character of Amir Khan in Gajni, where we see memory and identity, like the stream of consciousness, how he is making his own identity again and again because he is forgetting things. So these are the contemporary relevance which we found from this novel and the movies from Hollywood and Bollywood as well. So basically, 1984, even in this contemporary times, we can see that how government is still trying to control everything. Like even this few months ago or few weeks ago, there was this act called Sanchar Sathi, which was launched, but unfortunately did not gain that much access. But indirectly, the government was trying to control the data of the people's phones, which is an act of violation of privacy. So we can see this contemporary parallelism between the government now also and the government during the 1984's setting time as well. So that is it from our side. These are the references which we have used, and thank you.
Good. Quite well presented. The slides were also quite well prepared, systematically with the theme of the novel. Very interesting graphics were also presented about the characters and the thematic concern. And the basic idea was connected with the contemporaneity also, with some relevant films, popular films, how they portray these ideas, and several such other things, which is ongoing in and around in the contemporary times also. So from Tuesday onwards, we will have a discussion in the classroom on this text. Probably on Tuesday or Wednesday, we will have a screening of this film also, for the further discussion of characters and thematic study also. We end our live stream here, okay? And you will have your next class after this.